Eccentric dog owners bring their pooches to a prestigious competition. Listen as we discuss people who are better off shopping from catalogs, the same old proctologist joke, and the longevity of the American bitch brand. Then we find out if Best in Show stands the test of time.
Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? James says Gladiator with a glutton. Alan says as a father, blah blah. It's the test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today? Test of time, James and Alan have their say. Do the movies you love still hold up today?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Test of Time. My name is Alan Noah, and the second best person on this show is you, James Brief.
Oh, the second best in show.
Yeah,
I
get it.
Well, I mean, you are the director, so you outrank me a little bit in post-recording duties, but right now we're co-hosts.
Yes, we are co-hosts, and we are both equally the best.
You know, I was thinking a fun little game that I want to play with you. I came across this Reddit thread. People compiled their favorite movie associated with each state. So there's 50 answers here. For example, what is the most favorite movie that's associated with Iowa, for example?
Okay, so that one is Field of Dreams.
Right. So that's a very obvious one.
But wait, I just want to clarify. So it's movies about a place, not necessarily where they were filmed, and its popularity in that state.
It's the film most associated with that state is basically what the criteria was. For example, Colorado. I mean, if you know this film, you know it takes place in Colorado. It's a very famous film. We've reviewed this film. It's a horror film that takes place in Colorado.
See, I wasn't thinking of a horror movie. I was thinking of South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut, or Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead.
Those probably got in the running.
Oh, but what's the Colorado one?
The Shining.
Oh.
Another one might be fun. We've reviewed this film. Alabama.
Alabama. I don't know, man.
Alabama's My Cousin Vinny.
Okay.
Here's one you might guess. The film most associated with the state of Oregon.
Oh, Goonies.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. Ohio. I'm going to give you a hint. It's Sandusky, Ohio.
Sandusky. Oh, so that would be Tommy Boy.
That's right. Yeah, there you go. Here's one. I think you'll get this one. And I think this is a great answer. New Jersey.
Clerks or Mallrats?
You're right. Clerks.
Okay.
Two more. One of them is New York. Now, there's a lot of good answers for New York, but I'm going to say that this is a violent film.
Goodfellas?
Yeah, it's Goodfellas.
Okay.
I would pick other films personally for that one, but Illinois, because it's 108 miles to Chicago. We got half a tank of gas, I think a pack of cigarettes.
It's dark out and we're wearing sunglasses. So that would be Blues Brothers. A movie that I have pitched that we should do on the podcast many times, and we just haven't done it. We do have to do the Blues Brothers. I would like to revisit that movie.
We'll get there.
We will. But let's talk about Best in Show. We did Waiting for Guffman not that long ago. I don't remember exactly when, but I wanted to do the other Christopher Guest mockumentaries. So next up was Best in Show, and I saw that it was having its 25th anniversary. So I was excited to talk about Best in Show. You said that you'd seen it, but it had been a while, right?
Yes, I'd seen this years ago. I'm pretty sure I'd seen it on DVD. It's been a while since I've seen the film in its entirety.
All right. But for anyone who hasn't seen the movie or doesn't really remember it, it's a mockumentary that follows various dog owners as they travel to Philadelphia to compete in the prestigious Mayflower Kennel Club dog show. There's Jerry and Cookie Fleck and their Norwich Terrier Winky. Cookie had quite the past, and she routinely encounters former lovers, which upsets Jerry. Meg and Hamilton Swan are yuppies that project their anxieties and insecurities onto their Weimaraner Beatrice. Harlan Pepper is a wannabe ventriloquist with a bloodhound named Hubert. Sherry Ann Cabot owns a previous Best in Show winner, a poodle named Rhapsody in White. Sherry Ann is in a romantic relationship with the dog's handler, Christy Cummings. Scott Donlan and Stefan Vanderhoof have high hopes for their Shih Tzu, Miss Agnes. which dog will take home the top prize and be named Best in Show. So this movie came out 25 years ago in the year 2000. How did it do when it was released, James?
The film did very well, actually. Its budget was $10 million. It barely cracked the top 10 on October 13th, 2000, when it expanded from 53 to 291 theaters. It never dominated the box office, but it wound up making $18 million at the domestic box office. And this is the kind of film that had legs. I think people had heard of it from Waiting for Guffman, and also probably films like American Pie really helped film like this, because it's the dad for American Pie.
And Stifler's mom.
Right, exactly. Jennifer Coolidge is in this film as well. It got a lot of good buzz.
I believe it was Eugene Levy. He said in an interview that this movie did better than Waiting for Guffman because of the dogs. He really felt like people love dogs and people like looking at dogs. And yeah, maybe they had a little bit of indie cred because of Waiting for Guffman, but just the fact that this was a movie about dogs helped it at the box office. It helped gain an audience. I think the best way to break this conversation down is to do it by the characters, because it's an ensemble. There's lots of different characters and they're mostly separate. They do come together, especially at the end. But let's start with Jerry and Cookie Fleck. So they are played by Eugene Levy, who co-wrote the movie, and Catherine O'Hara. I think most people now, when they think of them as a couple, they think of Schitt's Creek, because that was a very popular show. But this was the first movie that they played a couple. They're a former couple in A Mighty Wind, which is the third mockumentary that we'll do on the podcast eventually. They were both in Waiting for Guffman paired with other people, and they are so good together. I think the joke of they're a couple and she had a lot of lovers before they got together and he's insecure about that, on paper, that joke isn't really that funny. I don't think. It's like, oh, okay, did you really hurt your brain coming up with that? It is hilarious in this movie because it's Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara. I really struggle to think of another pair that would make this bit so goddamn funny. It works because of them.
It really shows to the versatility of Catherine O'Hara. And Eugene Levy, he's a great actor, but it's a similar role that he plays in some of these films, like American Pie. He's kind of a meek guy, and his eyebrows do half the acting, which are fantastic and funny themselves.
Sure. They play off each other really, really well. Their dog, Winky, is also adorable. The scene where they go and meet her former boyfriend, Max, played by Larry Miller, that scene is so painful. From the moment they walk in and he gives her this big, huge kiss on the lips in front of his wife and her husband, and then everyone just pretends that nothing is wrong. That dinner table scene is so awkward when he's recounting the time they had sex, and poor Jerry doesn't know what to say, and he's just saying, well, what if I said your wife has wonderful breasts? And she's like, oh, well, thank you, I appreciate that. And then he gets mad. It's so funny, and it just keeps building. You would think it's just gonna maybe end in a fist fight or something, but it takes this unbelievably crazy turn where then their son, the son of the couple that they're visiting, is going to maybe jump because he's on top of the garage. And that's what this guy does. Max, his job is he's a negotiator, and when people are going to commit suicide, he talks to them, and they're like, oh, that must be very stressful. And he goes, no, not really. They always jump. It's like, holy shit, he's terrible at his job. And then you see him being terrible at his job. He's screaming at his own kid, and he says, I'm going to stab you with forks until you bleed. Like, this is how you get him to come down peacefully? That's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. But let's move on to Meg and Hamilton Swan. They are the yuppies. They have braces for no reason. It's not explained. Parker Posey got real braces for this movie. And Michael Hitchcock, who plays Hamilton, he didn't. And he said that he wished that he had, because the retainer that he had was just terrible and temporary, so he couldn't really get used to it. But Parker Posey really committed to the bit. She got the braces. And the movie starts with them in therapy talking about how they were caught having sex. She says that she was in Congress of the Cow, which is a position that she felt very, very vulnerable in. And you think maybe they were caught by a child, but no, it was their dog, Beatrice. And, maybe you could sort of see that joke coming if you know that it's a movie about dogs. Even just rewatching the movie, I knew that joke was coming. I saw it coming. It still is funny when the camera pans to the dog in the therapist's office.
It's a very funny joke, but my favorite origin story joke about Meg and Hamilton is how they met. It is the ultimate yuppie story where basically she's like, well, I was at my Starbucks and he was at his Starbucks, but he went to my Starbucks. It was just so funny.
Yes, it is. And the way that they talk about catalogs and shopping from catalogs, and they're really big catalog people, which honestly does kind of pay off later in the movie when she flips out at the employee at the dog store when she's looking for Busy Bee and she can't find a replacement, and she has absolutely no tact dealing with that store employee. Yeah, maybe it's better that they do most of their shopping in catalogs.
Yeah, and today online, she does most of that there.
Sure, it kind of doesn't stand the test of time, but catalogs are still a thing. I do get a lot in the mail.
That's true. They really are the only bad guys in the film. I think, there's some other people that are a little snippy, but I think I'm rooting against these two. Like, once theirs is disqualified, that's my favorite part. It's a very good comeuppance for them because they're just so awful, those two people.
Speaking of how terrible they are, when she can't find Busy Bee and she's looking in the hotel, the maid is trying to help and she flips out and threatens to have the maid deported. That also, I think, kind of does stand the test of time. That's a thing that people say in 2025.
100%.
They encounter someone who maybe doesn't speak English that well, and they'll say, I'm going to have you deported. Terrible. Just terrible.
Absolutely. They are probably the only really bad people, as opposed to people that might do bad things.
A character who's doing a bad thing is Sherry Ann Cabot. That's Jennifer Coolidge's character. She's having an affair. It's so funny, the scene with her and her sugar daddy husband, who doesn't say a word. He just sits there. He's Blue from Old School, that same actor.
I think this is kind of referencing more of a 90s reference of the late Anna Nicole Smith.
I think so, yeah.
When she married, I believe he was an octogenarian.
Maybe in his 90s, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. I believe that's kind of what they were going for.
Definitely. Again, on paper, that joke's maybe not that funny. A younger woman marries an old man for her money. Okay. But the delivery in that scene where he's just sitting next to her, he can barely move, and she says, our sex life is great. In fact, sometimes I'm the one who pushes him away. Well, yeah, that's kind of what we expect. But the Jennifer Coolidge delivery is so funny. And then when she's talking about how they have so much in common and they can talk or not talk for hours. They can not talk for hours and still find things to not talk about. That's hilarious. That is so goddamn funny.
Right, exactly.
And then it turns out that she's having an affair with the dog's trainer, played by Jane Lynch. And you don't find out that they're a couple until pretty late in the movie. It's not terribly surprising, or maybe I just remembered that, but the way that they play off of each other is phenomenal.
Jane Lynch is so funny. I mean, she's got a really, really good punchy kind of delivery. And her with Jennifer Coolidge, I have to admit that back then, I'm almost positive I would have been like, oh, they got Stifler's mom in this film? Okay, I guess she's got a good agent. I just want to admit that I did not find her particularly funny. I mean, I thought the role she did, I laughed at Stifler's mom, but I thought it was more the writing rather than hers. And I can really appreciate what a fantastic actress. I've seen, The White Lotus and these things she's done since, and she's great in what she does.
100%. I do think that is kind of the magic of the Christopher Guest movies, kind of in general. You could say the same thing about Eugene Levy or Fred Willard or Parker Posey. Like, these people were around. They were doing stuff. But I think, especially for people our age, this movie comes out in 2000 when we're 21. We don't know who all of these guys are. Maybe Christopher Guest looks kind of familiar from Princess Bride. Maybe Bob Balaban is one of those that guy kind of actors.
Yeah.
But all of these people are really, really funny. And there's a reason that Christopher Guest uses a lot of the same actors over and over again. He knows that they're funny. He understands that they have good chemistry together. We could go on and on and on about the genius of Christopher Guest. I think one of the things that he really has an eye for is comedic talent and chemistry.
Casting.
Yeah, it's casting. Two other characters who are bringing their dog to the show are Scott and Stefan, played by Michael McKean and John Michael Higgins. Michael McKean is a personal favorite of mine. I love him. I love him in everything he does. He's really good at improv. His mockumentary bona fides are clear just from Spinal Tap. He wasn't in Waiting for Guffman, but he is so funny. And honestly, John Michael Higgins as Scott, he's really even funnier because Michael McKean kind of plays, it's a gay couple, so this is probably the wrong term, but he kind of plays the straight man, where he is trying to tamp down his partner's wild statements. Scott delights in making people uncomfortable. He makes jokes about the fact that he's gay, and then Stefan has to say, okay, all right, we're just going to get the meat we need from the butcher and then be on our way now. Thank you. Also, just speaking of great chemistry, the two of them play off of each other so well. I laughed every time the two of them were on screen.
John Michael Higgins, he is the snarky one of the two of them. He's the little meaner one. Like, he says all the mean gossip about everyone else. And yeah, he's a fun character to watch, especially in a documentary role that it's almost like they're quote unquote catching him saying all these offhand remarks. And that's what makes it so funny because, you know, it's supposed to be like, this is gold for a documentary, but it's all fake. And of course, Michael McKean, you're right, not in Waiting for Guffman, but he winds up being in the other. He's in A Mighty Wind, right?
Yes, because the joke in A Mighty Wind is that the three guys in The Folksman are Spinal Tap. It's the same three guys, but instead of metalheads, they're folk singers. But the last character who's bringing a dog to the show is Harlan Pepper, and that's Christopher Guest. It's funny because this character, Harlan Pepper, is so light years away from the character Corky St. Clair that he plays in Waiting for Guffman, but also still just a very quirky guy. I think the thing about Harlan Pepper is that he is hurt by the fact that he's not in a couple. Like everyone else who's bringing a dog to the dog show that we follow in the movie, they're couples. And Harlan Pepper is solo. And look, that makes sense, right? Not everyone who brings a dog to a dog show would be a couple. I'm sure there are single people who do that. But just in terms of the comedy in this movie, a lot of the time that we spend with Harlan, he is doing a straight-to-camera confessional. He's talking to his dog. He's talking to himself. He's talking to those other people who work at the bait and tackle store in the beginning. But he just doesn't have as much interplay with the other characters. And then when he does, at the end, that scene with him and Jane Lynch, when she's trying to psych him out because she knows that he's competition, that's really funny. There's a scene where he's talking with some other people at like the party, the reception before the show, and he's going on and on about fly fishing. That's funny. I just feel like Christopher Guest almost gave himself kind of the worst role just because he doesn't have anyone to play off of for most of the movie.
To be honest, I didn't really remember Christopher Guest's character as much. I remember the Bloodhound being cute, and
Right.
actually I remember the Bloodhound winning.
Me too! That's really funny that we both remembered it wrong.
Yeah, and, you know, I feel like this is one of those situations where if you're directing the movie, you have a lot of duties on this film, and you might not want to be in front of the camera the entire time. I noticed the same thing as you. You know, his scenes were kind of alone, and he can kind of just, he could probably sit literally in front of a camera for 10 hours and just do that role, like just sit with the camera rolling by himself or with like one other guy doing lighting. I think it's because he was the director. That's why I think his role was the way it was.
Maybe. I mean, he is kind of the center of Waiting for Guffman, But yeah, maybe he decided for this time around he wanted to have less screen time.
For his $10 million film. Because,
Yeah.
he could have made Harlan the center, but also Harlan's not the funniest guy. I
No.
don't think he's the funniest character. So I think it's also a very good thing that he's less in the film.
Agree. And to your point about him being able to just sit there on camera and riff, he does. Honestly, they all do. There are hours and hours and hours of footage. I think 60 or 80 hours of footage that they filmed for this movie. And then after they filmed it, Christopher Guest took another year or so just editing it down, whittling it down. I got the DVD and there are deleted scenes, and there's a lot of Harlan Pepper driving his RV talking about nonsense. Oh, this is Haunted Hill, and it's not even haunted. It's not even really a hill. But the reason they call it that, and then he just makes up some whole story, and then he keeps driving and say, oh, they call this Haunted Hill too. It's also not a hill. Honestly, like the deleted scenes, some are funnier than others. I think you could make the argument that the movie is edited pretty damn well. It's short, it's quick, it's tight, and yeah, there's funny stuff that ended up on the cutting room floor, but you kind of got to believe that he left in the really, really funny stuff.
Well, then kudos to the producers and whoever owns the rights to this film. I'm not sure if it's Christopher Guest, but when you have a film that you basically have 80 hours of improv, you can easily release like Anchorman 1.5, or you can easily release a totally new cut of Best in Show and just call it the something cut. And there's millions of dollars that they're leaving on the table here. And I think that that's to the integrity of these producers. I'm not saying anything about Anchorman 1.5. I've heard, the funny part about it is that it's literally almost a completely different plot, I think, with all the outtakes. But back in the day when they had DVDs, they would have sold hundreds of thousands of copies, I think.
Right. So all these characters, they bring their dogs to the show, and that's where we have color commentary from Fred Willard. It's
man.
Fred Willard and Trevor Beckwith, played by Jim Pittock. Trevor is the straight man of this duo who is really just trying to keep his composure and talk about the dogs. And he, in real life, was a very serious British actor. He didn't have a lot of time on set. Everything that he filmed with Fred Willard was done, I believe, in a day or two. And what Christopher Guest told them before they started filming was he told Jim Pittock to look up dogs and do some research, and so he would know some stuff. And he told Fred Willard to not do that. Do not do any research. Come in blind, come in cold. That way they would have that dynamic that they have. Apparently, Fred Willard based the character on a guy whose name I'm going to mispronounce, I'm sure, Joe Garagiola, who was a baseball player, and then he was doing stuff like this. He was doing dog shows. He was on Today Show. They hired him to do color commentary, and he didn't know what he was talking about, and it was funny. And people liked it. That was sort of what they based this character on.
Oh, yeah. It's like when Snoop Dogg does narration for nature videos and stuff.
Well, there's got to be a script.
I feel like some of the stuff he does now is scripted, but I feel like some of the original ones, that's my guess. I think the first one he did of those, I don't know if you've ever seen those, but no. I feel like the first one was just him just commenting, and it's really, really funny. But Fred Willard is hysterical. Some of the questions he asks the straight commentator is, do they ever dress up the dogs like in costumes?
He wants the bloodhound to be wearing a Sherlock Holmes hat and pipe.
Oh my God.
He asks, like, how do they get them so small? Do they miniaturize them?
Oh, yeah.
He says, it's just a real shame that in some countries they eat these dogs. Every single thing that he says is so goddamn funny. The one joke that really got me personally was when the judges are inspecting the dogs, and he makes a joke about when he went to the proctologist, and he says, oh, I said to my proctologist, you better take me out to dinner first. And then the other guy says, yes, I remember when you made that joke last year. And that is so funny because it makes me think of my dad, who has told that same joke about the proctologist to me 1,000 times. And every time I'm like, yeah, Dad, I know you always make that same joke. The proctologist needs to buy you dinner. Ha ha ha. I get it. That cracks me up.
The one that cracked me up is just kind of out of nowhere. He turns to Jim Paddock's Trevor Beckwith. Really, there's no context. And he's like, how much do you think I could bench? It's just, just the fact that he says that there, that was so funny to me.
It's great.
And I also love his joke about dogs in other countries. What exactly did he ask? Did he ask if they speak, like, do they bark in other languages?
Yep.
I just thought it was hysterical.
It's all really funny. Despite the way that you and I remembered the movie, Winky wins Best in Show. That's the Flex dog, who is very cute. I mean, they're all adorable. My personal favorite was the Beagle, who's not a character in the movie, but I just have a soft spot for Beagles, and it was an adorable Beagle. But there are epilogues. We find out what happens to all of the characters after the show ends. The Flex have a recording career. Earlier in the movie, they just kind of make up songs about their terrier, and so now that's a thing that they do professionally. To me, that's not the funniest bit ever, but it does kind of, in a meta way, it does segue to A Mighty Wind when they're a couple that sings together. Sherry Ann and Christy, they had won Best in Show 2 years in a row, and they don't win this time, but they found a magazine called American Bitch that is a magazine for the lesbian purebred dog owner, which is so goddamn funny. And I do think a little bit, unfortunately, that is a joke that kind of doesn't stand the test of time. There used to be a lot of really niche magazines. Now there's niche websites and Reddit forums and things like that. But a magazine? No, that's not going to be a thing in print in 2025.
That being said, I happened to find myself in the Hamptons this summer, and they still have like the Hamptons magazine. That's a big thing there because the advertisements, the people that read that magazine that still do, are high net worth. I was thinking about American Bitch just totally randomly, and I was thinking, I'll bet that magazine lasted longer than others because while their readership must have been very small, that's a very niche readership, I'll bet they can make an argument to their advertisers that, like, it's probably high net worth readers of that magazine.
Yeah, I could see how maybe that niche magazine would last longer.
Or they become the definitive lesbian dog show YouTube channel that everyone follows.
All right, how about this? Maybe 25 years later, the magazine is no longer in print, but the brand is still very much alive. Scott and Stefan, they make adorable calendars with their dog, and they have multiple dogs. Only one competes in the show, but that they recreate scenes from classic movies. It's adorable.
It's a funny joke because it's dogs in fireman outfits. So, it's funny.
Right. Harlan ends up on a kibbutz.
It's not just he ends up at a kibbutz. He's like, well, right after the show, I went straight to Tel Aviv. And right there, I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's just not where I thought he was going with that. It's a total hippie thing to do because it's really like kind of like a socialist utopia when you're wearing a kibbutz. And it's just very funny to me as an American looking at what the kind of guy that I thought Harlan was. So to me, extra funny.
And he's going to pursue his dream of being a ventriloquist because he can do more than just raise the dogs. And then Meg and Hamilton, they get a new dog because it wasn't them that was the problem. It was their dog who was the problem.
Oh, the terrible people. I mean, it's so funny.
It's so funny. I mean, clearly they are the problem. It was not the dog that was the problem. Maybe it comes from this movie, or no, probably also just people I had met. But over the years, whenever I had met someone who said that their dog had anxiety, I would always just think, no, your dog doesn't have anxiety. You have anxiety, and you're projecting it onto your dog. Dogs don't have anxiety. But then I adopted my dog, Copper, who very much has anxiety, and it is not me projecting it. It is just him. So I don't know, maybe it was some kind of karma for me personally that I didn't believe that dogs could have anxiety, that now I have one. Whatever. It's still funny that Meg and Hamilton got a new dog, and they seem happier at the end of the movie. Presumably that will be short-lived, but whatever. They get a nice little happy ending there. But James, let me ask you, Do you think that Best in Show stands the test of time?
Absolutely. I mean, you give these people, instead of the hundreds of thousands or scraping together $1 million for Wait for Government, you give them $10 million. And this is, I think it's kind of timeless. It's a dog show. People are going to love dogs for the rest of time. And it's funny in and of itself, but then you just have such an A-plus cast.
Yeah.
You said it yourself, Al, that there's probably 80 hours filmed and very, very smartly edited down to a very sharp, under 2-hour film, quick film. It's the pace it has to be, and it's very funny. This is very witty laughter. You might not actually laugh out loud too much in this film. I did a few times, but it is so smart. It doesn't have to elicit the laughter for you to go, that is funny. I'd say the only thing I don't like in this film, that it just never is funny to me when I see it, is the 2 left feet joke.
Yes, I totally agree. 100%.
Yeah, it's not funny to me. Eugene Levy doesn't need a gimmick like that.
Right.
But this film is fantastic. Stands the test of time. It's not the kind of movie you need to watch over and over, like comedies, like you could see it every month or two. It's a fine wine that you let age a little bit, and then you come to it every few years, and it's very, very funny.
I like that.
Great film, and I'm glad they got the budget they did. So yeah, for me, stands the test of time. I had a lot of fun watching it. What about you, Al? I don't think we have too many surprises here. Does Best in Show stand the test of time?
Yes, I very much love this movie. It's so damn funny. I got the DVD from the library, and as soon as Courtney saw it, she's like, "Oh, I'm watching this with you," which does not happen all the time when I'm watching movies for the podcast. She really wanted to rewatch this. We watched it with our daughter, who didn't love it. I don't think that's a testament to the humor not having aged well. I think it's more because she's 12 years old, and if we say something is funny, then she's going to think it's not funny. Like, it has to be a movie that she wants to see, and if we suggest it, she's going to have a chip on her shoulder. Courtney and I loved it. We were cracking up at the whole thing. The cast is amazing. They're all very, very funny people on their own, and they have so much chemistry together in their couples. When they cross, the scene at the party when the Flecks meet Stefan and Scott is hilarious. When Scott introduces himself as Mary and he's bragging about something, and then Jerry says, "Oh, well, you must be very proud, Mary." And he's making a little joke, and Scott is so impressed with this corny dad joke. They have great chemistry together. There's a crossover joke when Fred Willard's character says that Catherine O'Hara's character looks kind of familiar. Get it? Because he banged her too. LOL. The interplay with these characters is phenomenal. The dogs are adorable too, and that's a nice little bonus. But this movie is so damn funny, and it 1,000% stands the test of time. And we will get to A Mighty Wind at some point. I don't know when. We'll give a little breathing room, but I'm looking forward to that one too. But we're not talking about that next week. Next week, special guest Clinton Festa is coming back on the show to talk about 2 Godzilla movies. We're going to do the original 1954 movie, Godzilla, and the 1956 American version, Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Like a classic 1950s double feature.
It's a creature double feature. I'm so excited to watch those movies and to talk with Clint. Clint is always a great guest. I'm really looking forward to that episode. In the meantime, we want to hear from you guys. We are at Test of Time Pod on Facebook, X, Instagram, and Threads. You can find all our old episodes at testoftimepod.com. And hey, if you think we're best in show, write us a nice review on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it. It helps people find the show. And we'll see you next time, everyone.
Bye.